Good evening, I'm going to call this meeting to order. The pledge of allegiance. Ready, salute. And pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bring along the roll call.
Michelle?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Boris?
Here.
Councilmember Nave?
Here.
Councilmember Sordia? Here. Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to closed session and we'll be back.
Well, we're back on closed session, we have nothing to report at this time. And we are moving on to something. The approval of the agenda, do I have a motion to approve this tonight?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Tim Flores and motion from Nate, all in favor?
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to council report. Recommend
It was a slow week for me. Attended a couple of different high school events, the tennis team, I was on the Washington tennis team. So I went to Hills and had a home match. Well, I went to the high school football game versus Woodlake, which lost. I did have a home game with Lindsay on Cheerhouse Saturday. They have one more home game, 3 weeks. It's a full day of football and cheer. You are always welcome. Thank you to the police, fire department for responding to an incident we had on the field. And I know people really like to watch it. But other than that, I just that was great. It was fun. And other than that, on the wild work.
Thank you. I also attended the 9/11 dinner. It was very nice. Thank you for all you did, Armando. And it was really cool. I did go to the New York Cardinal game last week, the little mini ball game. Oh, it's your team. That went. Yes. You're running up and down back and forth. And I met the new Lindsay football president, or President AC Torres. He expressed interest in meeting with some of us, just to kind of, get together and go over some of his vision and what's going on. I'm like, okay, I'm just here to watch the cheerleaders. But then I got to watch because my neighbor's a cheerleader, so but I got to watch them really deep. They're so little. You're small. You're little boy on it. It's been really good. And then I also went to the Little Soul Festival fundraiser at Virginia's on Saturday. It was beautiful. They had some amazing little souls, and our daughters got to get dressed up, and I ended up working. You guys know Virginia, right? So it was really, really neat. And that's all I have. Thank you. Thank you.
I also went to the memorial, fundraiser. There was so much here to do there, and Armando, my God, really busy. He just made everything happen, everything was flowing. He was happy.
He's like, when's my review? These two over.
Yeah, but that was great. Everybody was there, and it was really nice. Much better.
Thank you. I also attended the September 11th World Dinner, and it was good. Thank you. Dinner was good. Drinks were good. The people were good. Everybody was just a cool vibe. I enjoyed myself. I also attended the TCAG and TCRTA meeting. I really have nothing to report. I mean, I could like my hopes on some things, but yeah, I attended that. I also attended to the Lindsay football games for the I should have one like that's yeah, junior. So I looked at that. I don't know how you could. I was out there yelling at the boys. But they got so close. They didn't get so close, so that was good. I also attended the Barrel Boxing. They held a show here on Sunday. It was really cool. It was packed in there. It was super hot though. Super hot, all that body heat. But it was just cool to see. Like, and it was kind of also scary to watch the little boys just punch each other. I mean, they got the gear on. But to know that we were hosting that here, it was super, super cool. I also have upcoming things with me with Valadeo. He's actually coming to Lindsay on Thursday. So Tyler, we have the vegan cities coming up. The tequila tasting, is up by the Rotary this weekend. And then in 2 weeks, we have the Kiwanis, having a reverse dinner, drawing on October 4th, I think, maybe. So, yeah, that's all I have to report today. Thank you. We're moving on to public comment. Public comment. Members of the public may address the city council on matters within the jurisdiction of the city of Lindsay. Persons wishing to address the council concerning an item or an agenda will be invited to address the council during the time that the council is considering that agenda item. A person wishing to address the council concerning issues not on the agenda will be invited to address the council during the public comment portion of the meeting. When invited by the mayor to speak, please step up to the lectern, state your name, city of residence, and make your comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Do you have any public comments at this time? No. Public comment is good. Move on to the city manager report.
Madam Mayor, speaker report. As the mayor mentioned, we have a meeting with Congressman Vallejo Thursday. Today, we, Armando and I, as well as Miranda, were on the panel for our recreation coordinator position for the second round of interviews. This is kind of more or less the number 2 at the wellness center that really assists and helps Armando with putting on the things. Had a vacancy for a little over a month in that position. Seems to be that there's a promising candidate, so probably working on making an offer later this week. Also, we had public works director interviews yesterday on Monday. Also, again, had a promising candidate, so the offer went out today, earlier today, so we'll negotiate. If and when that individual accepts, formal background checkups, all those fun stuff for start dates, all those fast. So it looks like we're moving in the right direction as far as filling up the team. Critical. Still have others, but progress as far as that is concerned. As mentioned, the 9/11 fundraiser was mentioned, so that was fantastic and great. We had some of the businesses after the event stepped up, and I think that I'm confident that reaching the goal of the fully funded organization up and going and beautiful so that was very positive. I think people that were spurred on by the effort and want to help make a additional difference. Speaking of which, and so I'll just say, because I think it's safe to say, since they were buying a package and by a large additional donation for that. So we'll work with that, do a matching type program doing something along those, but they continue to look for options to be better engaged with the community with Lindsay. They have some new management over there. They have some bigger plans on how to invest more in this city, not only from a standpoint, but their actual facility. So not really a whole lot to report on that, but just the fact that it's nice to see the renewed interest in the city and what that can, from a job standpoint, from property tax, general good business friendly atmosphere. I had a meeting last week with the chamber. We discussed downtown revitalization, different efforts, ways we could possibly partner, economic development committee. There was some mention of the chamber's interest in taking that over or having a larger presence in economic development information. Some of the history from last year as far as what how that started was providing. So that's something that we'll continue to discuss and kind of as far as upcoming few months. We had, last meeting, we had a discussion with grant writer. So they're providing and doing research and investigation on some good opportunities for the city to bring in additional dollars. I've got a follow-up meeting with them, first, and so they'll be presenting some of their findings. It probably isn't going to be extremely detailed, just, based on what's out there, but just kind of, sharing some areas that are good candidates for it. Assuming that goes well, then probably, get a more formal proposal from them, quite possibly come back to council, have that evaluate, and see whether or not we're interested in having a large formal relationship with them. So, departments specifically to figure out their needs. We have a good idea of what those needs are, capital improvement plan. Lots of needs on that for over the next 5 years in the department. And so looking at that as well as there's a lot of things that I'm sure as a council that you guys see that there's additional things that your neighbors, family, that you just go on about and say we can fix it. Yeah, so we'll take all that information and try and develop a plan to really focus on some of those priorities to get those addressed. I mentioned there was TCAG and TCRTA meeting. So in that meeting, there was some mention that there would be additional dollars for sidewalks for active transportation projects. The mayor alluded to that. Yesterday, I had a meeting with executive director Ted Smalley, and it still has to go back to the full TCAG board. Anticipating a month or two to full TCAG board, but we anticipate an additional $2 million in fund for Lindsay specifically for those type of projects. So that's in addition to the already $2 million. I know neighbor, you and I talked about that yesterday. So that means there's going to be a significant amount of funds for bike lanes, for sidewalks, for those type of improvements. It's not like we're going to have bike lanes. So, but different types of improvements that are needed. So that can really make some good investments in the near future to help, give back to our residents. Additionally, we had a meeting with QK with our planners on our housing element and updating that. We've recently been taken off the bad list for HCD so we were on a 5-year detention authority, purgatory, probation, whatever you want to call it. And so that has been lifted now. So we are no longer in that. We are now able to use funds for HCD. So some of those are housing rehabilitation. So there's different programs that we can do to help out homes within town, and provide some grants or loans. There's also first-time homebuyer loans which we had in the past and still have ongoing. Many people in town are taking advantage of that program. So those are different things. We talk about from a staff standpoint, as being able to put together a set of plans that will a standardized set of plans for anyone that wants to build an accessory dwelling. So Joseph came up with that great idea so that if someone wanted to build, a granny flat in the backyard, rather than have to go through the whole process of hiring an architect and having something to sign or whatever, if they wanted, they could still do that and they could pay for all that. But if they didn't have the funds or they didn't want to go through that process, the city would already have pre-approved designs that they could just accept and then get permits for that when they'd be standard, right? So it's not going to be like no flashy or whatever, but other cities have done that, and it would expedite the process of being able to get some of those things built and we can utilize some of those funds that are available to create these plans, so that we would be able to offer that to all residents. Say, we have pre-approved, that's already ready to go, so that would be something that would be positive, if it's first of development, first of initial property tax growth, and just help people get additional value. Also been talking with, the county economic development team, they are in talks, it's quite private, they wouldn't share with me, guys. I'm excited to share something, but there is, a large employer, that's looking around our area and also some other, communities as well about, having a large facility that would do some type of food processing, so it's on their short list.
What do we need to do?
Well, we're working on it. I just got informed of it yesterday, but we basically said we'll roll out the red carpet. Got some places we're talking about, wall plant is 300,000+ square feet of space, and it has all the utilities already ready to go. So I mean, that would be, just depends on their time frame. So I think they use a lot of things. My understanding is automated, so they may want to build from the ground up. I think it's kind of a plan. So if that were the case, there's definitely land that's available on the negotiated land on it, but there's land that would be within the city that we could prioritize to get some to get water, sewer out there. I guess that wouldn't be completely, but we do it. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's my understanding that they wouldn't be, they wouldn't necessarily be minimal. That's all I have on that. So there's some good little nuggets of different stuff, and then I won't go into the transit center too much, but we've been working on the design that we've got on transit center stuff, but good positive things and potentially more money. Right now we have about 10 million and in discussions, there's possibility for more if we can justify it and we have a good solid case as far as why we can. So the team is working on making sure that we get as much money as possible to make sure that site for everyone involved. A couple of things real quick. So also met with the county last week on county islands and different partnerships on that, city limits, etc. So still preliminary. I don't have anything on it. Still chatting with them on those. We have the city's annual conference in Long Beach on October 7th to 10th. I'll be attending, and I know some of the council as well. I've stated this before, but the drop dead deadline to register is Friday, right, Dolly? So if anybody, I know folks have already shared who want to attend, but others have said not interested in the Canton or whatever. But if you have to change your mind, you got 3 days to change your mind and say you're in if you want to. Otherwise, that's the last drop dead date. And lastly, Bryant Water Authority is interested in having us be a member. They are discussing Thursday at their general board meeting. Obviously, we have to set and go through that process, and we have to have an item to come before council if they're set. But they are discussing that this Thursday at their board meeting. I think the staff and the board, I think there's a lot of great synergies. One, Bryant Water Authority is housed here. It's based in Lindsay, so this is a large water agency that spans from Tahone, from the base of Tahone all the way up to Chowchilla. So it's I don't know, it's quite a million acres, but it's a large amount of our agriculture in the San it's covered a large. The only other city that's a member that's full voting rights, Fresno, and so it would add a different type of voice from the hometown, that would represent, smaller communities and communities that have charity, agriculture, but that's it. That's what-
Thank you, guys. Moving on to the consent calendar, do you have a motion for the vote? Read it first, sorry. Routine items approved in one motion unless an item is pulled for discussion. There will be no separate discussion of these matters unless the question is made. In which event, the item is removed from the consent calendar to be discussed and voted upon by a separate motion. Do I have a motion? I want to talk about 11.6. So we're gonna forward. Anybody else? 11.6, approval of building about the event needs to be closure. Okay? They approve the rest?
Whatever your preference.
We
You can
can
approve the
have-
rest, or you can have questions.
Yeah.
Whatever your preference.
I just have it says contingent upon the city receiving all necessary documentation to implement. So they haven't received the documentation?
We received most of the documents, we're still waiting on the security contract, and the agency license.
Oh,
So they have it coming in, their maps, or the books, where they have everything. So we're just waiting on the items. We have their liability insurance, so that's good. We're working with Orange. The orientation is great, so, yeah, so, well, we would have most of their items.
that's more important.
Don't know.
Insurance. Yeah.
I signed their.
Oh, okay, I just didn't know, like, if they hadn't turned anything in, hold on.
I think that information should be in the packet.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just waiting on a couple minor items.
I will say this on that point, staff was diligent, really trying to help facilitate getting this in a timely fashion, and help trying to work with them to make sure that they had all the documents and understood what was needed. It was a team effort, on.
Yeah.
No, but it- So if they want to get, you know, going.
And we're gonna be meeting with all the organizations, hopefully, November, we have a pre-meeting, myself, Chief, and Joseph, to go over what we're gonna be discussing at this, special events meeting for all the organizations, so, we're gonna talk OBS, Christmas Parade, Friday Night Market, all those groups are gonna be invited, and then we're gonna meet with them and kind of go over the special events permit, and guys that, you need everything in 60 days prior, or you won't be there. So, all you do is put in their special events, and most of their items will work with them. But we did have a little bit communication issues, on both sides, so. We'll get there. Make sure for the year.
Thank you.
People still here.
All right, thank you for that. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar plus 11.6? I move to approve the consent calendar. I have a motion from May and a second from Foya, all in favor? Aye.
Motion passes 5.
Moving on to action items, we got 12.1. The proposed professional service agreement with, I think it was Walco, is there anything about Walco?
Welcome.
On the Spanish?
I think, yes, it is. It's more of an American. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, it was several meetings ago, we came to you with the option to put out an RFP for lobbying services. We received three proposals for this. In addition to the Walco Group, we also received a proposal from Chriscom and from Townsend and Associates. Chriscom is a local out of Kings County. They're corporate based, also have an office in Southern California. Work with a lot of Kings County interests, as well as Townsend and Associates. They have, they're all over the rest throughout the state. We have a Washington office as well. Ultimately, we scored and looked into contracts based on the needs of Lindsay and how their proposals were tailored towards us. We looked at costs, their experience with other cities, key individuals that are part of it, as far as who were actually proposed to be working with the city and their backgrounds and resumes, and we came up with Walco Group, Top Group. Some of the, I think, benefits of them is that they have experience with cities. However, there isn't necessarily any conflict with any local cities of similar size. So their closest client is Fresno, the city of Fresno. And I think we can all understand that there's a lot of differences between Fresno and Lindsay, and there's a lot of different needs, demographics, obviously size. Whereas some of the others have similar sized cities in the region, and there's in my mind, I think there's different conflict with seeking out their funds when going after different types of grants and having here the administration. Additionally, the Walco Group also has rich history of working with a lot of water agencies throughout the state. Kern County Water Agency being one, Kings River Conservation District out of Fresno County being another, have other interests outside of the area and region. So they have quite a bit, and I think that we can all admit that water is still a very important issue for the city, and having a level of expertise on that topic, being able to work with our unique needs, having not only do we have groundwater in the city, but we also have a contract with the Bureau of Reclamation for our water as well. They also represent some other ag interests, and so they understand the unique importance of agriculture, which we all share, being in the community, part of the citrus belt, and the former home of the world's largest olive processor. So with that, staff is recommending that you approve this contract. This is a 1-year contract, so they will come back and well, reevaluate after the fact. If approved, moving forward, we would engage with them. We would have them come down, meet with staff, similar to the grant writer. This would be, they would work in tandem. So oftentimes the grant writer is actually writing it, making sure that the grant itself is well written and prepared. And then oftentimes a lot of this will come in after it's submitted and work with people within the administration and try to make sure that it's forward. If they have any questions, if they're going to pick up because somebody didn't fill something out exactly perfectly, they give us a little grace. Some of those things. So some of those things that you don't really see behind the scenes, they help to kind of make sure that the right people are seeing the application and forward. Doesn't guarantee that it gets approved, but it helps to increase your likelihood of success. So so they would meet with staff, have those discussions as well, and then ultimately they would come back, provide a policy document that the council would engage with and talk about. There's different issues that go before the legislature on any given thing. Like the state legislature, they look through thousands of bills a year that get proposed. And so that's not our job here at the city, but there are some pieces of legislation that do matter to us, and every different department. So, the city services, there may be something that matter as far as water testing. There could be others as far as road funding, it could be something that impacts law enforcement and how people are, being impacted. So a lobbyist is going to help us understand what the council's priorities are, put together a document that's kind of a guiding principle for them that is crafted with council's input and direction, as well as with staff, input as well. So that really will help us get a bigger voice. The California League of Cities often they send out emails on a regular basis asking for letters of support or opposition on different pieces of legislation. And frankly, we just haven't really had time to engage with that. It hasn't been a high priority taking this way, but this I think will help facilitate us to get a little more active. I think it's, we'll still pick and choose as far as what we're getting involved with. We probably won't sit right up the item, but it will allow us to, get involved with the things that really will be impactful.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment for this? Nope. Public comment is closed. Do you have any questions, concerns?
Yes, I was curious, so what are some of the successes that, some of the other cities that really can share? I'm just curious what type of return on our investment we look forward to. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, it's just like, it's not touching, especially where there are cities that want to.
So yeah, so I think it's really looking at, again, looking at being a little more successful from a grant side and from a general allocation side. So this year in particular, there's always been granted. This is for state, but I'm going to use the federal kind of back in the office. But every year, congressional offices and two California senators, their offices reach out to all cities and counties, and say, "What do you have? What's open? Wish list. We need something that we can advocate. There's opportunities to have an allocation and earmark in federal bill. We want to know what you want. That doesn't necessarily mean that you get it. That doesn't even mean that we make the final list that we ask for. Well, for whatever reason, we didn't make that ask list, and so we're not on any list. So as the federal approval of a new budget is going through right now. There aren't any projects that Lindsay requested funding for. So those would be opportunities at state level that they would help to allocate when there's budget negotiations in June and May. I mean, really it starts in December. But for that first half of the year, they're able to have those discussions. I think we've been fortunate in the past where you don't always need a lobbyist. I think the Senator Melissa Hurtado was able to provide allocations for the city, and there wasn't any block. So it's not like you have that. But I think those type of allocations for a new fire truck to help us with some of our water needs, to provide us with even some of the $10 million that we received for renovation of the Alton, right? That's 3 different pots of funds, but those are the big things that we're going to be needing and looking for, because the Alton is great, but I think we know that Harbor Park could use some more help. We know that there's lots of roads. We're going to be working on Westwood and Central Van Ness next year, but those aren't the only streets that are in need. Being able to have capacity, we've received a grant for well 11. Self-help was really critical in helping us get that, but we need additional water, because for those manufacturers that come into town to create more jobs, we need to have the capacity ready to go, so that we say we can serve you, we can build new homes, we want market rate homes. So those are, the potential is, I think there's millions on the table. So for a $60,000 or $72,000 annual investment, I think the potential is 7 figures. Well, in my mind, that's what we're trying to go after those $7 million funds. Those things aren't cheap. Again, all of those are going to be great. That's $10 million. It's not cheap. So those are the things that I think it really needs to help us get to where I think this council and where this community wants.
No? No, do we have a motion at this time? For 12.1?
I'm also in the review, 12.1, the law code.
Wonderful. Wonderful. A second for me, all in favor? Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to 12.2, approval of resolution 2538, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Larry County Association of Government for the purpose of the allocation of funds for the preparation of construction documents for the transit center project. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, council. My item is really simple, so I will start by just giving you an overview of the funding sources that we have acquired for this project for the Lindsay Transit Center. So far, we have 3 different funding sources. Well, 2 of them are from the same funding source. TCAT, that's Measure R, as all we know. It passed back in 2006. The city of Lindsay was allocated $100,000 every year for the 30-year lifespan of Measure R. That's why we're giving $3 million allocation just out of that fund. And then about 2 years ago, we partnered with TCRTA to submit an application with the transit agency for Tulsa, and we were awarded cycle 5, which was a competitive application, the $4.4 million. And also a secondary allocation for the SB 1-5 section, which is the same type of funding the cycle 5 came from, and we have an additional $2 million. So total available funding as of today for the transit center is total of $9.4 million. And I have a grant total available today because obviously we have made some expenditures, and tonight we're asking you to allocate a portion of the $3 million to pay for the design of the transit center. So just to give you an overview of the expenditures that we have today from initial R is the property of the purchase, which was $250,000, the demolition contract, $234,000, and of course the construction documents, the 100% plans and specs contract that you awarded to pay back in May, June of this year. What I'm presenting tonight is to include a 10% contingency on top of their contract. So the total allocation that we're asking is for $869,759. It already includes the 10% contingencies, just in case there was a design change or based on the communications that we're having with Tyler and Joseph's team, if they wanted to change something and it was not included on the design, then we can address it, come back to council, and you guys approve it here without having to go through TCAT. And also for expenditures, just to keep track of what we're spending, obviously we haven't requested anything on Tulsa, so 0 money. So total expenditures today is approved tonight, to the contract to go through the initial R would be $1.3 million. So what do we need to access those funds? Every time we have we receive a grant through Tulsa, through Caltrans, we have to have master agreements. We already have that in place. Tyler just signed the master agreement with Caltrans last week. So all of that is taken care of both with TCAT and with Caltrans for the Tulsa portion. So now before tonight, before council, you have the supplemental agreement. That gives you direct access. We're asking, this is by project basis, by phase. We have to tell them how we're spending the money. So you have a contract with the engineers who design the project. We want them to pay 100% out of the portion of initial part. So that's why you have before you the supplemental agreement. And with the resolution, you're authorizing the city manager to sign this agreement. Once he signs the supplemental agreement, it goes before the TCAT board meeting next month or the month before, depending on the timing. And then the board will report on it. Then the city is not getting reimbursement as to this. With that, the presentation. Questions?
Here's the questions. Can you refresh the timeline? Keep there. No, like,
So the design is expected to be completed by next summer, pending that everything goes perfect and there's no design changes. By summer of 2026, we will have through PSNE, plan specs and estimates. We will go through the bidding phase because there's an architectural and building component. The bidding phase is a little bit different. It's longer than normal bidding that would go through the process per se. So the bidding can take about 4 months. So maybe by November, December, we will open the bids. So construction should start by spring of 2027. And that's what we submitted to Caltrans with Tyler signed that agreement. So once we have that timeline locked in, once we complete the 100%, we're going to be coming back to you and ask you to authorize execution so we can request a supplemental agreement for the two house funding for this for the 4.4 million and for the 2 million. Also, once we get an estimate in the next few months, I know that Tyler is starting to keep that and there's additional funding that we will be requesting. Because those numbers that we came up with, they're 2023 numbers. So obviously there's going to be a shortage. So we're on top of that and Tyler's already had this conversation. Any more questions?
Yeah, on the 10% of the contingency, will that include all, and then all three?
This is just for the design. The contract with QK is whatever. There we go. So if you remove 10% out of that $869,000, which is like 86,000 or so, that's a 10% of fees. That's just in case something were to come up with during the design. And Tyler says, you know what, I don't like the building, whatever. So then, so if there's a design change, that's when Tyler would have to authorize, I guess, a change order to the design. And then would have to go through this. So I'm just, we wanted to add the 10% contingency so we don't have to go before the board. But that doesn't mean that you are giving QK 10% spec. It has to come back for approval.
And I will just say that, we have been looking at, maximizing funding recently, so we've had quite a few, I think, meetings, maybe a little more than we initially anticipated over the last 2 months, making sure that we get the design right, that the architect and firm know what the desire of the city is. So there has been additional work in the last couple of months since the awarding of this contract. So it's not, I think it's not out of the norm that they need for contingency necessary just because there's some fluctuation. The other part is we're not exactly sure how much additional funds are going to be available. So Nate and I were talking this morning about just having the fact of having some options for the city that it's scalable. We can have some add-ons in case there are additional funds and they go, and there are some designs with that. But if not, then we don't have to completely plan that we have different options based on how much money they track for that side. Well, not necessarily add-ons, but if there's elements like landscaping on the site or different types of things that may not necessarily be absolutely necessary for the transit center, but shade structures could be other options. The size of the building itself,
Or the parking.
where things, right. So whether you have solar panels on the parking, so there's different aspects of it that aren't critical for the actual functionality of the building. But if we had additional dollars, it would be nice to help offset some of the costs, provide additional means to people while they're waiting to get on the bus. So just for general.
Any more questions? I think public comment for 12.2. No public comment? Public comment is through. We have a motion. And that's gonna make a lot of money.
I'm also gonna read.
I second.
Motion from Sawyer, second by Nate, all in favor? Aye.
Motion carries 5.
We could get sooner, like 2026, do that. Moving on to request for future items, do you have any questions for future items, council? I noticed you got the, Lincoln area, is it CRQ? Yeah, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Denver,
Nice.
Denver and Harvard, and plus we're gonna do Harvard and Zero View intersection.
Oh, nice, nice, yeah, I appreciate that.
Good. So
Thank you.
staff has been responsive, worked with the school district on the painting, and we found ways to get it done quicker and sooner than we anticipated, so really appreciate staff for doing that. And then also a shout out to the police department, because I know there were some comments at a previous council meeting about cleaning up some what may be abandoned vehicles, or at least a lot of parking of vehicles out and about, some of our service officers out citing them. So, staff is listening to what's going on at council and responsive to council.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that, seeing our improvement in traffic flow, the hospital. But everything else for the rest of.
At this time, the meeting is adjourned. You guys have a good night.